You're tuned to 1110 AM, 96.7 FM, news, talk, and sports for Maui. Jack Gist here, behind the controls for Reality Check, and the mayor not in once again. He's busy with the World Conference meeting on the environment on Oahu, continues. And have the pleasure of having David Good, Public Works Director, in. How you doing, Dave?
Hey, great, Jack. Thank you. Morning.
Right. And a very special guest. This should be really interesting. I want to get it right here. Lauren Armstrong, Executive Director of Metro Planning Organization. So we have quite a bit to talk about. Let's start with Dave. Don't take offense, Lauren. Okay. Want to know what projects the county's involved in right now? We always caught up with that. We haven't seen you in about, a month or whatever?
Yeah, I haven't been around.
Don't take that personal either.
No, I always enjoy coming here, Jack, and try to get the word out and hear what people have to say or questions they may have. But I actually saw the mayor in Honolulu a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. We were over there for a kind of a forum that the legislature had asked to put together regarding. Actually, it's more about Oahu's rail and how we do transit-oriented development around rail. Mm-hmm. And the legislature actually asked the neighbor islands to start participating. So. Meaning, so it was funny because a few neighbor island guys over there kind of looked around the room and they were talking about things, and we realized we felt like 12-year-olds at the adult table. And kind of like, okay, I have an idea what they're talking
David?
about, but that doesn't really pertain to us quite yet. But we do have opportunities, like I told those folks, that we have 2.5 million, I think, bus boardings a year. Mm-hmm. And throughout Maui, and it seems that our bus system does have some capacity to move folks and can grow, and around those routes there could be denser developments to help, which actually helps make transit go. Mm-hmm. So I did see the mayor there. He was at the World Conservation Congress. I think it's called the IUCN. Yeah. And but he did take time out to come over. And he did bend my ear a fair amount about some of the things he was learning at the World Conservation Congress. So I think when he comes back on your show, you're going to have an earful. Yes. You're going to get an earful. You're going to get an earful. Because one of the things they obviously are talking a lot about over there is climate change. And climate change and sea level rise is something is pertinent to our transportation system. And especially in Hawaii, all islands, we have roads, belt roads that go around the islands. And we have vulnerable places on those roads, and so it does all come together, mm-hmm. In one shape or another. And that's why today we want to talk about the Maui Metropolitan Planning Organization. And Lauren Armstrong is our new executive director, and she's
congratulations, I think.
Thank you. Good morning.
She started 7 days ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just breaking you in then, huh? I like this. You have to get a little closer to the microphone.
And. But I think there's probably a lot of folks out there that are saying, Metropolitan?
Sounds like a threat.
That sounds like an ice cream. No, it's Neapolitan. Metropolitan Planning Organization, what is that? And so maybe if I could, I'd explain a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we get federal funds for highways in Maui, actually in Hawaii. And so, Jack, when you fill up for gas, you pay gas tax. It's embedded in the price of the gallon of gas, mm-hmm. and I think it's 18 cents goes to the federal government. So you got 18 cents when you're gassing up, shoots over to Washington, D.C. Now, we all know what they do in Washington, D.C., right? They say
nobody knows what they do, Dave.
Right, exactly. But somehow the state of Hawaii gets back on an annual basis $160 million from the feds. Now, it doesn't come as a blank check. It comes with all these strings attached and red tape. And so we've been using our share of those funds in Maui County for Maui County roads to the tune of about $15 million a year. At least that's been our level for the last, say, 5 years or so. The state of Hawaii on their roads spend maybe another $20 million here on Maui. So we get about $35 million a year. And with the feds, along with some of those strings attached, one of them is, if you have an urban area as defined by your census that hits 50,000, which we did in 2010, Central Maui basically was getting 50,000. Then it says, then once you've hit this trigger, you need to form a metropolitan planning organization.
Okay.
So that's what we said. Okay. So So what? So now what? What do we do? And well, it turns out Oahu has one because obviously they're greater than 50,000. There's a state statute that forms OMPO, the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we had to amend the state law to include Maui, and then we had to pass an ordinance here in Maui County. And so our county council passed an ordinance that put together this group, because what this group does, and I think this is what's really important, is that the organization will determine which projects get funded with $35 million a year, roughly, state and county. So before the state determined their projects, the state basically told us, hey, you got $15 million a year, fill it up with whatever you need to do, which we did, and they would approve it. So it was an administrative process run by the State Department of Transportation. Now that process is run by a public body that has an executive director, Lauren, and it'll have another staff member that'll specialize in a lot of the finance and back of the house matters. That will have a very public process, but ultimately the policy board, of which I'm a member and actually am the chair for the first year, will be making these decisions. So in a nutshell, it's more local control of how our federal highway dollars are spent here on Maui Island. And so that's a big change.
Is this organization outside of the county as far as not being guided by the administration and such, Lauren?
It's a good one for Lauren, her seventh day on the job.
Your seventh day on the job.
Okay, so the Metropolitan Planning Organization budget comes from federal sources. So about 80% of this year's budget is from the Federal Highways Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. So we are a separate entity from the county or state government.
Okay.
Currently, 20% of our budget comes from the county and state. So that's the match to the federal funding. We are connected administratively to the Maui Department of Transportation while we're getting started, but we are a separate entity.
Okay, excellent. Well, you can see, that being an outside source, basically, you can see pretty much the forest from the trees. You can see exactly, I mean, because the county's involved and the state in a lot of projects, a lot of road projects. Dave is just infamous for pushing a lot of stuff through. It's great.
Sure.
We see obvious problems like going to Lahaina, period. It's like, either you're going to get trapped in Lahaina or not be able to get there because of a number of problems. I guess the state canceled plans for the, I wasn't sure, the road over the Poly or whatever, which is just drastically needed. I'm sure you could tell that. Have you driven to Lahaina yet?
Yeah, I've seen some pretty significant erosion from, I grew up on Maui and remember driving out to Lahaina, and only on the biggest storms we would have, water coming up on the road. And from what I understand now, it's a lot more common, and really one of the challenges that the MPO is going to be facing, along with the public. And that's really our goal, is to bring the Maui community into the conversation with the technical experts, with the elected officials, and really come up with some long-term solutions for transportation issues on Maui.
Okay, well, I apologize for not knowing that you're from Maui. Yeah.
Well,
I guess it's good that you have firsthand knowledge of the entire situation of this island.
Yeah, she does, and that's I think one of the things we liked about Lauren, along with her experience in Marin County most recently, of engaging the public on sea level rise, which was is a big deal. Of course, there's Oceanside community, and it was a big deal. And I'm sure the state of California probably has a number of programs that are forcing communities to analyze this and understand it and plan around it. And it's definitely a very pertinent issue for our roadways currently. And you mentioned, I think, the hot spot that we're aware of. So the MPO, if I could add a little bit more to what we were talking about earlier, has a policy board. So that was established by the county ordinance. And so the policy board does include decision makers, legislators, in this case council folks. So there's 3 council members on our board. They're appointed by the chair. So they're Councilwoman Cochran, Councilman Couch, and Councilwoman Crivello, all three of which chair committees at the council that have something to do with transportation or planning. And then department heads, myself from Public Works, Will Spence from Planning, Don Medeiros from our Maui DOT or our bus system, and then the State Department of Transportation Director. And so that's the body that will eventually be making the decisions. But the information has to roll up from the public and from our Technical Advisory Committee, which is essentially civil servant staff, our staff, say in Public Works, Planning, DOT, et cetera. The folks that are going to be around. So some of us, we're appointed, we come and go. These are the staff that have been here many, many years, or senior staff members within the various departments. And that'll help us make, I think, good decisions with good science. And the neat thing is, Lauren, we're going to get some money. I mean, the part of the money that we get from the feds not only helps run the organization, but gives us funds to do studies of our choosing. And so how are we going to figure that out?
That's right. So that's an important part, as David said, of the federal funding, is that it increases our local capacity to learn more about the transportation issues. We have right now a long-range transportation plan, and that gives a good overview of some of the challenges that Maui is going to be facing in the next about 20 years. So when we see these kind of escalating traffic issues, we have a lot of opportunities to improve our multimodal system, so more bus, more bike riding, walking. There's a lot of opportunities in the built environment to encourage people to get out of their car and be more active as well, which can have many benefits to the community. So some of the studies that we're interested in doing are, kind of identifying performance measures that we'll want to track over time, and that could be included in the long-range transportation plan. We could definitely get a better grasp on, what's causing real intense traffic situations in certain locations. We can look at how climate change might impact our roadways. We know that sea level rise is certainly threatening Honoapi'ilani Highway.
Yeah,
And
I was going to say, can you say Oluwalu?
Yeah. So there's definitely some, hot priorities that the MPO can help address.
Do you think that, you have to excuse if you're picking up the noise on the air, it's they're doing a lot of heavy work on the parking lot and such outside. But do you think that because we do have an organization like this now, that you can become more influential to the state, be like a lobbyist
Sure.
to get some of this stuff through? I mean, it's crazy that they dropped the whole idea about having a plan for the road over the Poly or whatever it is they're going to decide to do, because it has to be a state project.
Sure. So I think, as Dave mentioned with the policy board, it's made up mainly of county officials and staff. And we have one member from the State Department of Transportation. So this policy board has the ability both to, receive public testimony, so really to hear from Maui residents what are the top concerns and top priorities for transportation projects on Maui, and we can make that recommendation to the state. So it really does give us a lot more control over our federally funded local projects.
Well, I was involved. I bring this up. I brought it up on a number of shows, but just because it was like a perfect storm. The fire at Ma'alaya. I was there at the intersection when it took off. And it was just amazing because it was just like just an explosion of energy. And I thought, well, if it gets over that ridge there, then there's a real problem because it's going to go right down into the valley. And that's exactly what it did. The fire department had to stand back because it was getting out of control. I was supposed to go to Lahaina that night. Yeah, I saw that deal sealed. And this was in the middle of a Saturday. I think it was the 4th of July weekend.
Right. Yeah, it was.
And it was like a perfect storm for a disaster. Just amazing. You look at a situation like that, and you'd have to say, well, what could we do to avoid this? Is there anything?
Yeah, so I think, that's one issue with Honoapi'ilani is it is the main artery to get out to Lahaina, and that's, a critical emergency access. And I think the fire really showed how vulnerable it is.
Absolutely.
So I think that gives us a good incentive to really come together, and if it is a phased plan or, it needs to be phased out because of the high cost of realigning the road. But that's something that we have the capacity to do as a planning organization.
And chances are, even if we did have the road over the Poly, possibly could have been closed anyway, just because of the severity of the fire.
Right.
Right. And Jack, after having our two hurricane friends, Lester and what was her name?
Madeline.
Swing by, we deal with this constantly, it seems like, right?
Yes.
So we just need to be prepared. There are certain events that can happen, like that fire, which was, as you describe, I've heard other people describe it. It was like this, it was really towering inferno, right? Anyway, so quickly. And we were really lucky not to lose lives, I think, firefighters and also the hikers.
Yeah, it looks like we almost did lose those hikers.
Right. And so there are going to be events like that where we just basically have, like you said, it sealed the deal. You went back, right? It's like, okay, I'm not doing that today.
I couldn't even start.
Right. And so some things you can't control. You can't build your way out of that, I don't think. But so we just basically have to plan and be prepared as best we can, whether it's a hurricane or a fire or we haven't had a tsunami for a while, knock on wood. These things happen fairly regularly for us, so we just need to be prepared as individuals and as communities.
Well, there's another thing with a tsunami. I think a good tsunami would take out a portion of Hono-Piilani Highway around Old Wallow area. Archie Kalepa, my good buddy, posted a photo on Facebook. I don't know, did you guys see that?
No.
Yeah, and it was just like, save our road. Real simple. He's not one to be a radical or anything. This certainly wasn't a radical statement, but it was like, move the road back. And he's on there, Hono-Piilani Highway with a sign. It's like, is that Archie Kalepa? Yeah.
Yeah.
But we need a voice like that, to step up.
Right. I think it's Lauren's short time back on island. I think she understands that that's got to be. He knows that's kind of the number one thing on people's minds, and we'll probably hear from folks today on your show.
242-7800, by the way. Go ahead.
I don't know what the off-island number is that Don Couch always said.
Yeah, it's 1-888-982-7800, and all ships at sea. Yeah. So you're pretty much overwhelmed, huh?
There's a lot. There's a lot
just
to do.
7 days on the job, and we bring you in here. Yeah. Baptism by fire. I love it.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, no, this is exciting.
Honored. Yeah.
Because these are subjects that we've been talking about continuously for years on various shows. Another subject being the North-South Collector Road in Kihei, which will solve a lot of problems.
Right. That's I like to call that one the Residence Road because it's between Piilani and South Kihei Road and would connect a lot of residential communities to schools, parks, Kihei Community Center, the pools, commercial opportunities, and without having to go on South Kihei Road and Piilani, both of which get jammed up from time to time and are stressed by not having that alternate route. So, on the county side, I can at least speak to that because that is a county project. We have received funds, and it's in our transportation improvement plan to start constructing it. So we have funds to design. So we're in design on a number of different sections, a bike section heading south, and on the north section, the roads itself. So we're preparing to be at a point where we can, I guess, go to the MPO and say, okay, we're ready.
Yeah, you'll be able to take
Give us
that
some money
to Willikahau soon.
Yeah, the bike path we'd like to take to Willikahau. As far as the road, that would be like I think roughly the third phase. So the first phase is more on the northern end, would connect it from Waipuilani to Ka'onaulu, and it may have to be in 2 chunks depending on the cost. To Kalaniakoi be like a halfway point.
There's a lot of road on that side that has to be built, heading towards the north with that gully that I was mentioning earlier.
Right.
We were discussing that off the air. But you're going to have to install a bridge or something.
Correct. If you're on Piilani Highway, you see there's a bridge that spans both Waipuilani Gulch and Kalaniakoi Gulch. And we obviously have to do something similar. And so that's the primary big cost. It's also the biggest permitting challenge, because anytime we build over a waterway, even though it's a waterway that 320 days of the year, you can't find a lick of water, right? Maybe more days. I'm not sure, but you live on that side, Jack.
It's pretty dry. Pretty dry. But if it does rain,
comes down
up
hard.
on the mountain, yeah.
It comes down hard and fast.
We had a buddy of mine when it was raining heavily up on the upslopes. You could see the water gushing. It was amazing. And coworker said, yeah, let's head into your house. And realistically, it was, even though it was bone dry in Kihei, going through those gullies and such.
Right. Well, and those gullies or drainage areas actually go to the ridge of Haleakala. So that southeastern ridge that kind of divides the crater from, I guess we call it like Ulapalakua and Keokea side, that's where the water can start and end up down in Kihei. So obviously we got to build something that can span that, what they call the 100-year flood. That's where the expense is. And the permitting, like I mentioned earlier. So we have a lot of permitting with both the Corps of Engineers and the State Department of Health. We build it in a waterway. So those are the design challenges. And like I tell a lot of folks, the best part and the easiest part of any project is when you break ground for construction, because you've dealt with all the issues by then.
Yep.
Right? You're going to have some construction issues. They're generally, as far as the management side of things go, it's pretty easy to deal with. But making sure you have the land, that you've got the design, that you've dealt with all the permits, that you've gone through the public process, and you've gone out to bid, and you've awarded a contract without a big bid protest, and you're down to the point where you actually get to break ground, you are 99% of the way there.
Yep. Once that shovel hits.
Right. So the public perception is, it's like, well, why haven't you built it already?
Yeah.
Right? So, well, it's getting to that finishing up that 99% or whatever the percentage is. It's high before we can get to construction. So now we need to make sure that in order to pay for that we have the funds set aside, and it's also our job to make these projects as cost effective as possible. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges when we talk about Lahaina, the North-South Collector. And the other big one we're starting to hear about is the Paia bypass.
Yes.
They're all real big ticket items. I mean, the North-South Collector is probably the least expensive of the three. But, we've heard, Lauren, we've heard numbers of hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's right.
How do you get hundreds of millions of dollars done when you get $35 million a year?
That's an excellent question.
Down payment.
We can get a little closer by coordinating, at least between the different departments involved, and but it's a huge challenge how to implement these big ticket multi-year projects, and I think it really does take everyone being involved and having a transparent process.
So you're pretty much like the middle person.
Yes.
Instead of us being over on Oahu,
Mm-hmm.
and they trust your voice.
Right.
That's good. That's a good thing. And there's a thing. Yeah, you'd mentioned that project. David Ige stepped in and said, "Okay, well, enough of this building. We've got to maintain the roads." I didn't realize it was going to affect Maui County, and Maui News, in all of its glory, stepped up and said, "Oh yeah, every project's closed down," and they rescinded their story. I think it was 2 days later about no Lahaina bypass. I mean, one of the sections of the road's already paid for, though that's going to be happening. But I do think it did affect Paia bypass. So did you get in on any of that decision making that our glorious governor has decided?
Well, I started last week, and I did see a lot of the
Yes, it's all her fault, Jack.
It's all her fault.
So I know that's a classic excuse. I wasn't here, but
yeah, I didn't do it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've caught some of the news stories about the, just kind of challenges of the federal funding, and our funding streams are really flat or declining in some cases, and so I can certainly see how the governor and kind of state level transportation officials are trying to communicate with people that the fact that we barely have enough money to cover just keeping the roads up, and if our priority is safety, then in some cases maybe your short-term actions might not align with a sort of long-term goal for sustainability and resiliency. So that's something that I'm hoping the MPO will help kind of chart a collective course for making sure that our short-term actions are really aligned with that long-term goal.
Okay, well, I think at this time we're going to take a break. You're tuned to Reality Check. Jack Gist here behind the controls, and we'll be right back.
CBS News Update. Swimmer Ryan Lochte, the center of attention for all the wrong reasons at the Rio Games, has now been told he's out of the pool by U.S. Olympic officials. CBS's Steve Futterman.
This is a pretty significant penalty. Ryan Lochte will be banned from competitive swimming for the next 10 months through June. He will also be prevented from competing in next July's World Swimming Championships. There's a monetary penalty as well. He will forfeit $100,000 that he would have received in bonus money for winning a gold medal in Rio.
Lochte has accepted the penalty. He lied about a drunken gas station incident in Rio. Olympic historian David Walachinsky.
I think that Ryan Lochte is being held to a harsher standard than Michael Phelps was held when he, drove under the influence. The problem is that what Lochte did was during the Olympics.
4-month suspensions have been handed to the other 3 swimmers who were with Lochte. CBS News Update. I'm Steve Kathan.
CBS News on KAOI is brought to you by DeKine Paints, your locally owned Benjamin Moore dealer at 250 Alamaha Street. Quality paints for colorful dreams. DeKine Paints, Benjamin Moore, for everything that matters.
Aloha, this is Stephanie.
And Michelle
with DeKine Paints. Michelle, tell everyone the secret to prevent mildew on the bathroom ceiling or streaking on the walls after a hot shower.
Easy with our Benjamin Moore Aura Bath and Spa, developed to repel moisture while maintaining color integrity.
Right, Michelle. Aura Bath and Spa is mildew resistant and comes in a durable, attractive matte finish.
Say goodbye to yucky mildew and streaks.
Like all Aura paints, Aura Bath and Spa has 0 VOCs, low odor,
and uses our Color Lock technology.
To learn more about Benjamin Moore products,
come visit us at 250 Alamaha in Kahului.
DeKine Paints, Benjamin Moore, for everything that matters.
Since 1981, Hawaiian Carpet One has been blessed to work on over 17,000 homes on the island. Their selection of carpeting, including Stainmaster and Karistan, flooring such as hardwood, vinyl, laminate, and cork, cabinets by DeWills, and window coverings will make your home a showplace. Visit Hawaiian Carpet One's showroom at 162 Alamaha Street in Kahului, or call 873-2113 and talk to any of their friendly staff. Open Monday through Saturday, Hawaiian Carpet One. Our roots are on Maui.
Ever wonder how Maui Bay Browning Lotion became the #1 selling tanning oil in Hawaii and can now be found on store shelves in every state? Simple. The Maui Babe Secret Family Formula mixed from all natural Hawaiian ingredients. Just used together with Maui Babe SPF 30 sunscreen to create a safer, real tan over a much shorter time of UV exposure. So fast, so effective, and so much safer than the Block or Burn brands. Try the complete line of Maui Babe products and you will agree Maui Babe is no Oi. Available at retail stores all over Hawaii or online at mauibabe.com.
Have you tried Kihei's Best Happy Hour? Kono's on the Green is the spot for live music, drinks, and incredible happy hour offerings. Located in North Kihei's Tech Park on the Maui Nui Golf Course, Kono's boasts sweeping panoramic mountain and ocean views, the perfect choice for a memorable sunset dining experience. The sensibly priced menu with a clear emphasis on local, sustainable, and seasonal ingredients makes Kono's a frequent stop for visitors and locals alike. Join us at Kono's on the Green today for Kihei's Best Sunset Happy Hour from 2:30 to 6 p.m.
Krispy Kreme is the proud sponsor of the Community Calendar, which airs in the 9 o'clock hour Monday through Friday. Listen in to find out what your nonprofits in the community are doing for you. Krispy Kreme is always happy to support your fundraisers with special offers. You can call Krispy Kreme at 893-0883 to find out more. Krispy Kreme right across from Kmart. And remember, Krispy Kreme delivers anywhere Mokulele Airline flies. That's Krispy Kreme supporting our community.
Cash for Gold will buy just about anything from you. Come to 52 North Market in Wailuku and sell your gold and silver in any form. Jewelry, loose or mounted diamonds, antiques, estates, coins, fine watches, military memorabilia, clocks, collectibles, Hawaiiana musical instruments, ukuleles, computers, cameras, art, pro audio and video, sterling silver, flatware. At Cash for Gold in Wailuku. Private customer parking behind Maui Sporting Goods, 242-5555.
Come on alone. Cash for Gold.
Aloha and good morning. I'm Jack Gist with your latest Island News headlines. The Hawaii Department of Transportation Airports Division is holding a public information meeting for the Kahului Airport Master Plan Update, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday, September 22nd at Cal Noah Senior Center in Sprecklesville. The master plan is a long-range planning document used to guide improvements at the airport. The purpose of the meeting is to provide information on the status of plans being considered for the airport. Hawaii officials will unveil a plan to cope with coral bleaching that's threatening the state's reefs. Warmer ocean temperatures have stressed Hawaii's coral, forcing them to expel algae they rely on for food. Vast stretches of reef have turned white, increasing the risk that the coral will get sick and die. The State Department of Land and Natural Resources said it's been working on a coral bleaching recovery plan that it expects to release soon. Island weather, mostly to partly sunny, the high near 88, windy northeasterly trades 10 to 25 miles per hour with higher gusts expected. For the Visionary Radio News Center, I'm Jack Gist. You're tuned to 1110 AM, 96.7 FM, News Talk and Sports from Maui. Jack is here behind the controls for Reality Check. Without the mayor, he's still on Oahu. I have the privilege of having in my studio Public Works Director David Good and Lauren Armstrong, Executive Director of Metro Planning Organization, MPO. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning again.
And checking out your background. Your grandfather's what now? An architect?
He was an architect with Architects Hawaii over in Honolulu since 1948.
And he builds small things like Capitol building.
Yeah, so his firm was involved with the state capitol.
Wow. Well, let me throw out phone number 242-7800. Also off island 1-866-982-7800. If you have any questions about roads, whatever's, we're here and we want to talk to you.
Well, Jack, we talked about a little bit on the road to Lahaina, talked about the north-south collector. Maybe we should talk about the Paia bypass, because that's another one we're hearing about. And that one is a state project. And so as an MPO member, we're learning more about these state projects. And you got a call or no?
Yes, we do have a phone call. Let's go directly to the phone call here. Good morning. You're on the air live, 11:10 a.m.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good. How about you?
Good. Listen, I'm very interested in finding out what the conversation is about the possibility of securing a light rail corridor through the cane fields that would connect all of our communities and solve a huge majority of our transportation problems. Not immediate, but I'm looking like 50 years down the line. So what's the conversation about that?
Good question, huh?
Yeah.
Good question. Well, I can start by saying that the Maui Island Plan, which was basically a general plan blueprint for Maui Island, had some discussion about transit corridors, and the mayor has been very outspoken about this. I mean, the mayor challenges us directors because he's constantly thinking about things that are 20, 40, 80 years out, and he sees the need for these types of corridors. And when I say challenges us, because then we sit back and say, okay, how, when, where, why, etc. And so the conversation is there. The action is still a long ways off. And I think one thing that Maui County is going to have to watch is what happens on Oahu. And the experience with HART to date has been, I don't want to call it heartbreaking, but it's heart-wrenching.
Heartless.
It's tough. It's incredibly expensive, and those kind of funds Maui certainly doesn't have, and we don't have the population base to help pay for that, and I think to actually help operate and maintain it. So, while the vision I think needs to be there, it's one of those items that, given the limited amount of time and space we have to work on certain issues, how much do we put on it versus other things?
Right, I understand that, and it seems to me that since cane is down, and there are plans being made for all of that land, that it would be very wise for us to cut the deal for the corridor. And I'm not saying build, but the majority of Oahu's problems, as I have seen it, is because they did not have a corridor. And they've had to go up and down and in and out and under and around. And I think that we could probably do better for the future of Maui if we establish that corridor at this point, rather than thinking that we have to build it, which we don't. But if we don't cut the corridor, and allow the fields to do whatever, we may not have that opportunity in the future. And so it's a real primary concern of mine to leave these islands better than I found them. And that's one way that I think that we could possibly secure a better life for people here 50 or 100 years from now when there's 500,000 people on this island, David. I mean, just take a look at the population. Not to mention the amount of seniors, and we really don't want all those 85-year-olds driving. And the ability for our hospitality workers to get to the tourist areas in a reasonable fashion could really enhance the lifestyle of the people here on Maui. So you're right, David. It's going to be pricey. It's going to be expensive. Oahu's in a big mess because they didn't have a corridor. And we could do something right now to secure that for the future. And like I said, I'm not recommending that we build now, but that we secure that corridor. And I would like to recommend that we use some of those funds to actually lay down the corridor and figure out what it would cost to secure it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for the call.
Yeah, I think that's something that the MPO could certainly put on its work program to take a look at, what are the opportunities for finding a corridor.
Mm-hmm. And the mayor's spoken about that quite a few times, about the corridor. Not because everybody jumped and said, oh, my God, there's going to be a rail system in this. And no, it's for the future. Good morning. You're on the air live, 11:10 a.m.
Good morning. Very, very glad that always when you have David on, but also to have Lauren on to introduce her to the community.
Yeah, nice, huh?
First, Lauren, could I get a little bit more on your background? I did hear you say that I think you said you were raised on Maui and that you worked in California somewhere in this field that you're working in now, but could you give us some more details on yourself?
Certainly. So I graduated from Seabury Hall in 2003, went to the mainland for my undergraduate degree in environmental science, studied urban and regional planning at University of Hawaii Manoa, and most recently I was working up in Marin County, California on a sea level rise adaptation plan. So we did a lot of public engagement, a lot of studies and technical meetings about how can we adapt to climate change. So one of the issues that we were dealing with were the roads. Those are some of the first assets that are impacted by rising waters, both during temporary flood events and, over time as the water level is permanently rising. So that's something that, I think there's a lot of relevancy for our situation in Hawaii and on Maui. So that's a little brief background on me.
Sounds terrific. I attended a couple of the initial meetings in MPO, and when they mentioned this position that they had to fill, it seemed like this was going to be a key. And with that background and the way you presented yourself a little bit this morning, David, I think your group made a very good choice. This sounds marvelous.
Thank you, Mike. We think we did too, and we're in a learning process. Certainly, Lauren's in a learning process. While she has background generally in planning and some transportation issues, she hasn't worked in an MPO before. And all of us on the policy board, we're all brand new. We're all pretty new to this. And I think, in that respect, yourself and others that are listening, the public is too. And that's why one reason we're on the show today is to kind of get the word out about what we know we can or can't do and learn more from the public. But we are in a learning mode. And as chair of the organization for the first year at least, that's my goal, is to get it up and running, give it a foundation that it can take off from, hopefully in a coordinated and efficient manner. But we're learning for sure.
Yep, and I do remember, I think it was the first meeting, I asked that because our committee was asking, what's this all about? And that was your answer. We don't know what it's all about either. We're all learning. It's all brand new to everybody. So, but it sounds like certainly a step in a positive direction, and not to denigrate what the capabilities of it, but it's starting to sound like with the amount of funding available, if I'm getting this right, it would take years of funding just to do any one of these three projects that's outlined. Am I right on that, or am I have a negative connotation?
Well, Mike, I know you've hit. There's a reality to all this, right? We only have so much money.
Exactly.
It's like we all want to build some big house or some big addition, but then the reality hits in what we have available to spend. So, at least for myself as a member, I'd like to challenge, say Lauren and our technical advisory committee on some of these projects, while they're all needed, is how do we do it for a reasonable amount of money? And so maybe instead of asking, well, how much does it cost to build this roadway from, say, Olawalu to Malaya, or at least to the Pali, why not say, we only have X dollars to spend, $100 million to spend. What can you do for $100 million? Okay, so maybe it's not the full 4-lane superhighway 80-mile-an-hour roadway. Maybe it's more of a country 2-lane, 4-lane road that makes sense for Maui and the amount of money that we have at this moment. So I'd like to flip the question, rather than asking how much does it cost and it's so expensive we can't do it, to say we want it done and here's what we're willing to spend and we can do it over a few amount of years. What do we get for our money? And then really push the envelope more in that direction. I think that would spur action, that we'd have an actionable plan that we could then execute. So,
well, that sounds an excellent approach, David, from a taxpayer's point of view. And yes, it is frustrating for the citizens to hear, oh, we can't do that, we can't do that. Well, gee, why don't we have people in here? Let's find a way to try and do it at least. And your approach sounds right spot on. So that's very good. I'll get off and give others a chance, but I think this is excellent, again, program for introducing us to Lauren and giving the community more information about MPO. So thank you very much, guys, and enjoy your day.
Thank you, Mike. Aloha. 242-7800, off-island, 1-866-982-7800. And the list keeps growing.
Yeah, so, think about the money thing again. The money thing. Yeah. It's everything, isn't it?
What it is, yeah.
It's the world. So, previously, talking about this $35 million roughly that Maui had from federal funds, and we used to say, we were told, hey, from the state, hey, you got $15 million to spend. And so we would fill up our bucket of projects and spend that $15 million, and the state would take its 20 and do its thing. And it was kind of a dividing line. In fact, if you look at the transportation plan, I printed out a copy of the thing here. It's divided: state projects, county projects. Mm-hmm. Well, there's no reason those funds, they're the same funds. They could be thrown all together. If we decide as a policy board and as a community that it's so important to get a particular project done, then maybe that 1 year we don't do any county projects or any state projects. Throw all the money into one project and get it done.
All right, we do have another phone call. Good morning. You're on the air live, 11:10 a.m.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question. Does this group have anything to do with the new road that goes in and out of the airport near Costco?
Let's see. I'll start by answering that, and then Lauren, she's looking at me like, I don't know that one. Okay, so that's called the Airport Access Road, which hopefully will get renamed, have a proper Hawaiian name. So there was 2 phases to that. So the first phase that you saw completed went basically from the Dairy Road intersection with Punane to Hana Highway, actually just a little bit muck high. So that was done by the Highways Division of the State Department of Transportation. And then once it hit airport property, it became the second phase that you see now was done by State Department of Transportation Airports Division using totally different funding mechanism. And so it's not, the airport side would not be something this new organization would handle. We don't handle airport funds. But the state highway side, if it was a new project, is something we would be looking at, right, Lauren?
That's right.
Well, my question was this, or statement or point. The amount of traffic that comes in and out of Costco is pretty much mind-boggling. But as I exited Costco the other day, I said, well, why don't I just take the airport road and jump down and go out 5 mile stretch?
Didn't work.
And to my surprise, there's no on-ramp.
I got lost in that area too, just to check it out.
Yeah,
that's pretty much amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So there is a way, if I could speak to that, because there wasn't a way about a year and a half ago, and we had an opportunity to insert ourselves in the project, and essentially we held the project up until they figured out a way. The on ramp, there's an off ramp, right, coming from. Speaking of the microphone better here, there's an off ramp as you come out towards the airport, right? You can get onto Old Halakla Highway and go under the new tunnel. But leaving Costco, there was a year and a half ago, there was no way short of, I guess, going back towards Krispy Kreme and around, or going back into the airport and all the way through. So there is a bit of a roundabout way to do it, but you can do it. So you would head out of Costco, make the right towards Paia, make the left on, I think it's A'alele, the little cutoff road, and then you make a right, and that winds you back onto the airport access road. That little cutoff we negotiated for, because we basically said, hey, if you're at the Costco or you're at the airport hotel, you got to make this happen. So that was the quick fix that allowed the project to continue and made it a little bit better.
Wow, the traffic relief, if they would have put just a little on-ramp, would have just solved hundreds of people's problems. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for the call.
It's government. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
I think, once they have the car rental area completed, that it'll all get smoothed out.
Yeah, it's somewhat temporary now. The car rental project is a huge project. It's like a $300 million project. You can tell by the size of the cranes. It's like the most amount of cranes you've seen in
people
Central Maui.
Going, what, 2 cranes up there? Look at that.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
so it will straighten things out a little bit. It's a little convoluted getting it out of the airport now and getting to the rental car folks. But once that facility's up and running, it'll be much better.
Okay, we have time for one more call. Good morning. You're on the air live, 11:10 a.m.
Yeah, sorry, I had to come back in quick. I agree with you, David. You did a marvelous job in getting that, and I think it's still new. Once they get some signage up, of course, there's still a lot of construction going on, but once there's some signage, people will do exactly what you said. I did it. You come out of Costco, you make the left turn, you loop around, and you're right on that highway. So it'll just take people getting used to it, some signage, and get the construction completed, get that stuff out. I think it's a marvelous job.
Yes. All righty.
Okay, thank you, guys. I'll get off.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it'll all figure itself out. We hope.
Yeah, we hope. But I do enjoy the airport access road. On the weekends, I have to make the Costco run, and now I just shoot down. I take the off-ramp and go in that way. And leaving, I typically, since I'm going up country, I just go around the airport altogether. But it's taken me a little bit of getting used to in terms of getting in and out of the airport, but having done it a few times now, it's not too bad. And considering there's this $300 million project that's going on right in the middle of everything, it's
yeah,
it's not too bad.
I've not taken the airport access road yet. Just to keep a distance. I should actually just check it out.
Yeah, take a spin around on a not too busy part of the day, Jack. Maybe the next time you're in town.
Yeah.
Get a feel for it, because eventually you probably have somebody come in and you're going to have to explain to them how to get out.
I can get in, because I don't know how the heck to get out.
Yeah. So we were going to talk about Paia, right,
yes,
real quick. So we got some time for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Paia Bypass is a state project that started an EIS a number of years ago. In fact, we heard last night it was like 10 years ago. And so it's pretty far along. So in terms of that whole overall planning process, they're at the point where they're pretty far along in the EIS. They had some more archaeological work to do on the potential alignments and as HCNS cleared fields. Of course, when they started, there was no end to sugar. Now there's an end to sugar. So they needed to get access to certain fields. And it'll eventually be, Lauren, in a spot where it will be eligible for more construction funds. So it is something I think the MPO is going to be looking at. So we'll see. She's shaking her head.
Yes,
okay,
that's
I'm
great.
ready.
Sounds great.
I'll have to get you as a copy of some of the EIS work that I've seen, and to start to get an idea visually. Because some of the the key questions are kind of these connection points. Where does it connect on Hana Highway on the airport side? Where does it connect on the Ho'okipa side? And then where does it cross Baldwin Avenue? And then you kind of fill in the gaps there. So those connection points are key. On the Ho'okipa side, it's also an opportunity for park expansion eventually. So if it connects back on Hana Highway more on the Maliko Gulch side of Ho'okipa, then the old Hana Highway becomes kind of like could become a county road, gives opportunities for park expansion. That park's severely limited in space. And so there's other ancillary benefits that'll come out of a bypass road, and so those connection points are key in seeing what these other benefits might be.
So that's still on?
It's still on. Yeah, it's still on. But
because I'm telling you, Maui News wrote this very erroneous story about everything being gone, including the bypass.
Well, it's still now it's the MPO's decision, really. Yeah. So, but we need to get input from DOT. We need to understand what is it that's you got to really fix, and how much of a priority is it? Can it wait? And while balancing with what do we need in terms of new capacity? And so we need to learn more. We're in that learning mode. We need to learn from our technical folks what all the challenges are. But I will just wrap up by saying the State Department of Transportation Director, Ford Fujigami, is a member of the MPO. And he has basically said, hey, look, I'm one of 7 votes. Whatever you guys decide, we're going to do. And so hats off to him for having that attitude, and we'll roll up our sleeves.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think the MPO is really a chance to share that information about the projects out to the public. So really want to invite community to be involved with the meetings, stay up to date, give us your input.
All right. Will there be an informational meeting?
Yes.
Coming up soon?
Well, on that note, we have our next policy board meeting on September 19th at the Kalana Pakui Conference Room in Wailuku. That'll be at 9 in the morning. So we are still setting up shop with the MPO. A lot of our agenda items are pretty straightforward, just getting set up as an organization. But we do encourage the public to be involved in the conversation and, let us know what projects are important to you.
Okay. Well, Lauren, very nice meeting you. Glad we could introduce you to our airwaves. And David, pleasure as usual.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, until next week. Aloha, everybody.